Hello everybody, I'm JackieKCooper and this is my Entertainment Rundown Part 1. We weren't on the air last week, we didn't get to post a video, so to speak, and so we're catching up this week, and we've got so many movies that we're doing Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. And in each one of these, there'll be 2 major movies and then 2 lesser known movies. So we'll put the emphasis on the major movies but also give you the information about the lesser known movies. But the first big movie I want to talk about is Godzilla, King of the Monsters. This is the film that's been a series of films. There's another one scheduled coming out, I think, next year, Godzilla versus Kong. But it's about these monsters who, roam the whole globe. And it just didn't do it for me. I'm sorry. Godzilla looks to me like kind of a pudgy dinosaur. I know he can breathe fire, nuclear waste, or whatever. I don't know the details about it, but he just doesn't look that ferocious. And then there are these other monsters, a 3-headed Hydra-looking beast that he's up against, Mothra. There just seem like 4, 5, 6 of these monsters, and then there's 2 factions in the world, one that wants to handle the monster situation one way, another faction wants to handle the monster situation another way, and one just wants to eliminate humanity altogether and let the monsters have the planet. But somehow they talked a host of good actors into being into this thing. You've got Kyle Chandler, Vera Farmiga, Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things, Bradley Whitford, Sally Hawkins, Ken Watanabe, Aisha Hines, Charles Dance, O'Shea Jackson Jr., and Ji Zhang. I mean, that is a load of actors, and the storyline just isn't that good. If it hadn't been for Kyle Chandler and Millie Bobby Brown, I think I would have just slept through the whole thing. I know some of you are really excited about it. You've seen it. You said the action was great. I just didn't see it. It's rated PG-13 for violence and profanity. It gets a score of 5 out of 10 from me. Now, a movie that you might not have heard a lot about is called Papi Chulo. This one stars Matt Bomer, who is most well known, at least to me, from the TV series White Collar. He was the star of that show. It ran for 4 or 5 years on television, not on network, one of the cable channels. I really enjoyed it, and I hadn't seen him in very many movies, and none where he's had the lead like he does in this one. He plays a gay man who is coming off the end of a relationship. It's been about 6 months since the relationship ended. He's a TV weatherman, and one day he's giving the weather, and he has basically a nervous breakdown on camera. And they tell him, take some time off, get some rest. And so he's kind of forced into it. So he goes home and he looks out, and his deck needs painting. And so he goes by where day laborers are, and he hires a guy named Ernesto, who is played by, I want to get this name right, Alejandro Patino. I think I said that right. I'm sorry if I butchered it. But he doesn't speak English, very little. Matt Bomer's character speaks very little Spanish. But they do manage to communicate, and he begins working for him. But really what Matt Bomer's character really wants is just companionship. He wants to find a friend. And the movie is all about the relationship that develops between these 2 men. And Matt Bomer is just really, really good in the role that he takes up. I really enjoyed this movie. It's not one of these that you're going to write home about, but it is one that keeps you entertained for 2 hours because you never know exactly where it's going. It's rated R for profanity and sexual situations. I scored it 6 out of 10, basically for Matt Bomer's performance. Then, back to another major movie, we have Ma. And this is a horror film starring Octavia Spencer. I think I called her Olympia Spencer a few weeks ago. Octavia Spencer, who is just a fantastic actress. And a few years ago, she and director Tate Taylor got together and made the movie The Help. And she won an Academy Award for her performance in that. Well, she and Taylor are both collaborating on this film also, but it doesn't rise to the standards of The Help in any way. It is a horror story. It's about a bunch of kids who need somebody to buy alcohol for them because they're all underage. They spot Octavia Spencer's character, and talk her into buying the liquor, and then she invites them out to her house and says they can party in the basement. She warns them, don't drink and drive, and be safe getting home. But other things evolve out of this situation, and that's where the suspense and terror come into it. Again, the performance of one actor can elevate a film, and Octavia Spencer is so good in the role, but there are so many gaps in the plot. I'm not going to spoil it by saying what the gaps are, but there are gaps in the plot that you want to be filled in. But listen to this. It's got Octavia Spencer, Luke Evans, Juliette Lewis, Diana Silvers, Missy Powell, Tate Taylor, plays a policeman in the film, and Allison Janney, who's on screen for maybe a minute and a half. I mean, it's not more than that. I guess it was just a favor again to Tate Taylor. I thought the suspense was there. I really enjoyed the movie, though, because of Octavia Spencer's performance. It's rated R for profanity, violence, and nudity. I gave it 6 out of 10. Finally, again, a smaller movie, but this one really fascinated me. It's called Framing John DeLorean. Now, a lot of you know what the DeLorean car looks like because it was the one that was used in Back to the Future. So the doors come up and lift up. But this movie is about the man who invented that car. But it's a documentary. You're watching this, showing actual news footage and interviews and that type of thing about John DeLorean, his wife Christina, how he came up with the idea, what kind of successful businessman he was before he got involved in all this. And then suddenly you see Alec Baldwin sitting in a makeup chair talking about this movie that he's going to make where he portrays John DeLorean. And they put the wig on him and darken his eyebrows, and he looks a little bit like John DeLorean, not a lot. But then the next thing you know, it's a scene from a movie where Alec Baldwin as John DeLorean is talking to Marina Baccarin, who plays his wife Christina, or who is Josh Charles, who is playing his business partner. And then it goes back to documentary, and then it goes back to the actors talking about what they were doing before they were in the scene, and then it goes on from there. It is just a mishmash of documentary, behind the scenes, and movie combined. But somehow it works because John DeLorean's life was so fascinating, his rise and fall and whatever, that you can go back and look in the history books about, because it was a very famous incident when he did have problems after he had manufactured this car. But the film is not rated, I'd say it probably a PG-13 to an R because of profanity there. But again, I scored it 6 out of 10. This movie fascinated me. If you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But that was it. Again, just the confusion came together. It shouldn't work. It really shouldn't, but it does. And the subject matter is so interesting. But there you have it. Those are my 4 movies for Entertainment Rundown Part 1. Reach down there, subscribe to my channel, and be waiting for Entertainment Rundown Part 2. This has been Jackie K. Cooper.